is the Drunken Disorderly podcast brought to you by the Launchpad Media. Go to www.thelaunchpadmedia.com for all your fine podcasting needs. You can go there and check out the Blast Off with Johnny Rocket, Nice Guys Finish Free with Alex Merced, and us, except not for last week's episode, because I have had a giraffe for like a week. And I have been completely worthless, and I didn't even upload the video for last week's episode. And I'm sorry. Johnny, don't beat me. I'm trying to make up for it this week. I'm going to try to do some clips, but also I just got tasked with doing clips for Larry Sharp, so we'll see how that goes. Let's see. We have our streaming, or not our streamings. Oh, I deleted the crawler. Oh, no.
What?
It's okay. I still got it. Here we go. You're stupid, Justin. God. Making fun of my mask. All right. You can find us on anchor.fm/OzaRaptor. That is our anchor link where you can check out our audio version. That'll be up in a day or two. And you can donate to us on there. Don't forget, this week is the first week for the biggest dick in college football contest. You're going to want to be a subscriber for that. Also, you're going to want to go to our YouTube channel and give us a subscribe there. And definitely go to subscribestar.com/drunk-n-disorderly and support us on Subscribestar.
Membership has its privileges, folks. There are perks.
We have perks. We're going to have our post show tonight, and we haven't even asked this guest if they want to come on our post show. That is how fucking organized we are today. One way or the other, we're having a post show tonight. That's going to be subscriber only. We have the contest. If you are in the subscriber group, the games will be coming out tomorrow for everyone to make their picks. Have your picks in by first game on Saturday. Excellent. I'm just going to say 10 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, just so I don't have to think about it too much.
10 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, duh. Come on now.
Look, that's important. Those designators matter, dude.
Oh, we're military. 10 o'clock is 10. If I wanted to say 10 at night, I'd say 2200.
Our subscribers aren't military. They were smarter than us.
Yeah. No, John. Oh, the dog's back. Hey, baby. John was military, wasn't he?
John Phillips Jr.?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I think he was. Didn't we have that discussion? I don't remember. Anyway, Dre.
Drunk.
We have this awesome guest. Why don't you get us going?
All right. So, you guys, I am trying.
Wait. Pause. Sorry, I forgot one thing because it's a big deal. We are now on Twitter, and you can blame the guest for that. So it's oh geez, what is our tag?
I don't know.
It is @drunkmedia. So go follow us on Twitter. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay, so John Phillips Jr. says he was absolutely not in the military, but
Told you.
I am trying to get caught up on. I didn't have internet all weekend, so we pirated everything, so I couldn't watch fucking TV because this lady who moved in with 3 kids who she lets play in the hall of our condo on their bikes fucked up our cable or our internet. So
you need speed bumps. Put speed bumps in that hallway.
Oh, I think it's already been taken care of. Like I just opened the door and I looked out there and I'm like, ugh. And I had John call the condo association on the first Monday he could, and I haven't heard a peep since. But ever since like the first 2 days they were here, there's a kid screaming in the hall at midnight that's like 4 years old. Like not unacceptable. I'm sorry. Our building is mostly old women and a couple of young, lovely gay people. And me and John. And that's it. That's the demographics here. And you're not going to come in here with your 3 kids and fuck it up.
John kind of strikes me as an old woman anyway. It's fine.
He thinks he's 100. It's hilarious. So anyway, let's welcome our lovely guest, Mr. Cliff Maloney Jr., president of Young Americans.
Hey, Cliff.
So happy to have you on the show. We've been looking forward to this for weeks. I take personal responsibility and ownership for the snafu and scheduling. I apologize. I apologize to Reed. I apologize to you again. I'm very sorry.
I was like, damn, you guys like to meet early in the morning. 8 a.m. That was pretty early.
Oh, yeah. I can't start drinking that early during the week.
I mean, we could, but that would get ugly.
Yeah, I got this other job thing I have to do still for a while.
Could you imagine my patients if I showed up to take care of them drunk?
Dude, oh, I would have
Let's
a
get a blood pressure on you as I'm stumbling over furniture. Yeah, no.
You don't stab people with needles, do you, Erin?
No, not regularly. And I certainly wouldn't want to try and do that under the influence. I can't even imagine.
So Elfie just does mostly cleaning, so I think she could get away with showing up to work drunk.
Yeah, I would lose my license. That would be bad.
Yeah, you guys have different licensing, I think. I think you have like a... What the hell are you doing?
I have an actual license.
You go meet new people, and now you come back and just run amok in my house.
You don't have to have a license to just do companion work, to sit and kind of be company for somebody and help them with daily living stuff. It's just when you start getting into medical stuff that you have to have that. I do. Oh, can I bitch about that? You guys
dog or medical?
No,
stuff?
the fucking licensing. Can we talk about occupational licensing and overregulation? You guys want to jump in with that bullshit?
Sure.
Because so here's the way this works. For the last school that I had to attend to be able to get this license that I need.
Eric. By the way,
that school's right around $800 the tuition, right? So cheap tuition, $800. Then I got to pay the state a fee. I got to pay a fee to take my test. So I get this all done. It gets sent to the state so the state can put me on a registry. As soon as the state uploads that information into the registry, I get a raise at work. My client base expands. There are all kinds of other things now that I'm legally able to do when it comes to caring for our patients that I can't do without that license. I just need them to upload it into the database. It's literally, you do the data dump and you hit the upload. This is, drunk monkeys can do this shit, right? This is not complicated.
Talking about the government.
Talking about the government. So 3 weeks after I've spent this money, sat my ass through all of these classes, done this set of clinicals, all these proof that I can actually do my job, I'm still not in the registry. And so I call and say, hey, what's the deal? This other person that tested the same day I did is in the registry. I'm not in the registry. What's the big deal? Well, it's probably a separate data dump. And, we have 30 days to attend to that. And I said, well, 30 calendar days was yesterday. And she was like, yeah, no, 30 business days. Oh, and in your case, it's going to be a little longer because there's a holiday.
One day.
Oh, no. See, when you work for the government, Friday is part of the holiday as well.
I can get fucking Friday off.
So,
yeah, I kind of work for the government. There was no not having Friday.
Exactly. Yeah. Up there.
Go to a state office. You're not going to work that Friday. I mean, seriously, you guys, state work is good work. We bash on the state all the time. But if you have like a low bar and you're not a goal setter, right? You just want to get by, take a state job.
There's a reason I went in the Army to begin with, dude.
No nights, no weekends, no holidays. You get,
them 4 days, though.
Right?
So
I had a tweet that got a little bit of a storm. I said, licensing, when government takes away your right to do something and then sells it back to you. And I mean, the responses you get, you'd think that would not be some sort of outrage incited tweet. But man, so many people they want to rely on the government. They want to rely on the government to license those things because it's like, they think the government sets every standard.
But
right,
if we don't have licensing, then how are we going to prevent someone with no education from doing brain surgery? Like, how is the market going to stop that?
Here's the reality right now, though, what the state is doing because of this, the overregulation of these licensing. They're preventing someone who does have the education from taking care of patients who need that care.
Yeah. Well, so my ex-girlfriend got licensed to be a hairdresser, and health things happened. She wasn't able to do that job for a while and lost her licensing. And in order to get it back, it's like twice as much. And you have to basically go through not all of the schooling, but a lot of the credentialing again.
God.
And it's to cut hair. And look, I get it. I've actually looked into that a little bit. And there are things that you need to know as a hairdresser, like what kind of dyes are appropriate for different scalp conditions and things like that. There's things you need to know. But she had the education already. It shouldn't be an expensive, long, drawn-out process.
Right, but if it's not, then, how's the governor give himself a raise?
Right.
Because realistically, that's why these things are in place. And that's why the process is as convoluted as it is. I took that test. I've had the training. I've taken the test. I can prove that. I shouldn't need to pay the state additional money for them to fail to prove that.
Mm.
The proof that I can present should be enough. And really, we talk about the consumer market all the time, right? We've got, especially when you look at the left and they're screaming, everybody is entitled to consume, but has no obligation to produce, because that really is the song of the left. Don't produce, just consume. You can't say that that's what you want, but then say that consumers don't have the right to make their own decisions based on whatever evidence they deem fit for themselves without interference of the state. Like, pick a side. It's consumer driven. We should all consume, or it's not. And really, the left, who likes to say that they're anti-capitalist, that's all they talk about, right? You never hear talk from the left about producing, only about consuming.
Mm-hmm.
They want to paint that like it's different, but that's the reality.
Yeah, the licensing has definitely gotten out of control, and it just seems to not be going in the direction which it should be. Is less of that. We had a little bit of that here, luckily, thanks to Laura Ebke, but she's no longer.
Yeah, but what was the deal in LA? Do you guys remember the deal with like the bacon dogs in LA? Street vendors, they're licensed, right? They have all these permits. They're grilling hot dogs and selling hot dogs. And this new kind of trend comes out. People want bacon wrapped hot dogs. Things are fucking amazing, by the way. But that requires a separate permit.
Why?
It's a different kind of meat.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No. Separate permit.
I know nothing about meat, but I assume if you can get it all from the same supplier, it should all be covered under the same license.
Like, I get that there are all beef hot dogs because that's the only kind I will eat, but most people aren't persnickety uppity bitches like me and will eat a pork hot dog. So how is it a different kind of meat?
Well, and look, hot dogs, let's get honest. We're talking about hot dogs. Hot dogs are not meat.
It's lips, buttholes, and intestines ground up into a paste.
Assholes and elbows.
Hold on. Now I got a question for you. Speaking of meat, have you guys heard of Scrapple?
Yes.
Hold on. Let me poll you guys. We got one yes.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I have not heard of this.
It's a regional thing, the Northeast especially.
Yeah, I always get either the deer in headlights looks or whatever when I try to order it at restaurants. But being from Philadelphia, I mean, Scrapple is, it's a staple food. And it's kind of like somebody called it the Spam of the Northeast the other day. But it's kind of a mix of, how would you describe it? A mix of just what's left over from a pig? It's leftover parts, but the presentation of it, when you make a really good pot roast and there's all those little crispy bits stuck to the bottom, pieces of meat and gristle and potato and carrot, it's all that. That's Scrapple. That's the essence of Scrapple. It's all the little leftover bits that are just delicious. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. I always forget how regional that is.
We need a Scrapple revolution. Take Scrapple everywhere.
Can we not?
It's good stuff, you guys.
Come in a can?
So I want to back up a little bit and actually get into why we're here 15 minutes in. So you were talking earlier, sir, about something controversial you said on social media, which doesn't sound like you at all, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen you say anything controversial on social media. But apparently, other people disagree, and they think that you don't care about social issues, sir. Would you like to address that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I laugh about it because for the past 3 years, I've always kind of had this rule to try to avoid arguing on social media. And it's been one of the funniest things I've done is from time to time, I'll dive in and break that rule, if you will. But no, I had a poorly worded tweet, let's put it that way, where I said that libertarians should focus on the spending issue. I think the word I used was prioritize. And I'll stand by the fact that I do think libertarians should own that issue. I think Republicans, Democrats, and pretty much anywhere in between, spending right now with the $22 trillion in debt, I think that's got to be something that libertarians are not afraid to continue to talk about. But it was like I tweeted it, and all of a sudden everybody jumped at me that, oh, shit, this guy doesn't care about bringing the troops home. He doesn't care about criminal justice reform, civil liberties, privacy, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. So, one, let me start by saying, no, that's not the case. I think we should own spending. I think we should strategically find issues that we can make our own and really lead on. But of course, let me be clear, I don't think we should move away from all the other issues that are issues that we can build coalitions and recruit on. But the second thing that really surprised me, and I want to get your opinion, if somebody says social issues, do you guys think that means every issue that is not economic? And before you answer, like, I was baffled by this, and I'm 28 years old. I realized, we're working with a lot of college students, Young Americans for Liberty. Some of the responses I got from younger folks were pretty much like anything that isn't economic is social, meaning gun rights, free speech, privacy, states' rights, civil asset forfeiture, and criminal justice issues. They were kind of lumping all that in with social, and of course I didn't mean that. What's your take on that? Do you guys think that anything that is, when I say social, do you think criminal justice issues, and do you think free speech and gun rights and privacy?
Sometimes I do.
I wouldn't say gun rights are a social issue, but the rest of those, criminal justice definitely.
Well, so I think criminal justice is and isn't, right? I think gun rights is.
Well,
and
it is
isn't.
also an economic issue for real. But
I think when we say things like this, like there's only economic issues or social issues, you create a false dichotomy. Number one.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's true. But I also think it would be foolish to try to act like there aren't many areas of overlap between all of those things too. I think it's really rare that something is either just a social issue or just an economic issue or just a cultural issue or just a human rights issue. I think those things all kind of overlap over each other. So even if you said, I'm only as an individual going to focus on economic issues, you're going to end up dipping your toe into some social issues because they're all tied together.
I actually thought that was kind of the point you were trying to make.
Well, here's the best part. I saw an argument. Somebody, libertarian, was arguing with like a social conservative. So I thought social cons were going to come after me. And, here was more the libertarians. Guys, I got my alcohol as required. It's being delivered. I'm going to take a 30-second break.
Yeah, I heard that.
Look at this fancy guy sitting here. I got room service alcohol. I'm a higher class drunk than the rest of you.
I was talking to him earlier, and he goes, I'm going to be landing in New Orleans in a couple hours. I'm going to run down to maybe Bourbon Street and grab some beers to go because, you can do that there. And I'm like, you got to go and get one of those frozen drinks that we all had down there that you could get.
Oh, that was the only good part of New Orleans.
Those drive-through daiquiris were badass.
Oh, God. And they were cheap, and you could just, and it was, cold enough to carry around and stay cold in New Orleans.
No, Ramos went on a run. He went to this place. It's literally a drive-through window. You pull up. Him and Derek, I think, went and picked it up in gallon jugs, frozen margarita or frozen daiquiris in gallon jugs. Now we had to add more rum to them because they're lightweights in New Orleans, and we don't roll that way. But they were tasty.
Well, you have to remember they're French.
Well, yeah,
they will add an extra shot for you if you ask for an extra $1 or something. But
screw that.
What are those called? Does anybody remember what those are called?
Those are so good.
It's like a cute little name, like the same word twice, like Mambo or something like that.
They were good.
They were delicious, and I got them every day we were down there.
Is that like Mambo number 5?
Something like that.
It is better though.
But yeah, it's
is
like
there anything better than Mambo number 5?
7-Eleven. It was an adult 7-Eleven with every kind of Slurpee you could ever want in your life.
Yeah.
I know. That was like the only good thing I can say about New Orleans just felt like a failure to me.
I like New Orleans.
Everything about that trip was so bad to me.
Really? I had just an amazing time.
Like the only good thing I could say is I got to meet a bunch of people that I only rarely get to see, but even then, it was like, then I had to meet a bunch of people I really didn't want to.
I had a blast.
Oh, he's back. Everyone stop talking about him.
I think it's Zach, you stayed at the hotel though, didn't you?
I see.
All right,
Yeah.
did we start talking about the nuclear revolution yet? I know O'Donnell's going to want to dive in on that.
Not yet.
He
All
he has started in on it. So, do you want to dive in, sir, on your opinion on the nuclear revolution?
Oh, jeez.
Oh man. So it's funny. I get asked about energy. Some young people are very interested in energy. So when we work with college students, it's one of those niche issues. You see people are pretty passionate about, or they don't give a shit about it. I've always kind of taken this route, and you guys might call it a scapegoat, but I've always said when it comes to energy, I think the government should do its best job at just not regulating, unless it's something that's going to, impede on property rights, not regulate, and let the market figure it out. But I'd love to know why you guys think that's wrong, or if you think, I know Justin dives in on this issue every week. So tell me, what do I need to know about nuclear energy? Should I be for it or against it?
Oh man. So I keep having these discussions on Facebook, and I'll start the discussion with someone, and then they'll be like, yeah, but nuclear power can be really dangerous. And it's just like, I'll tag Justin or Carl, and just be like, hey, can you deal with this? I got to go back to work.
I mean,
So
seriously,
I can't make the arguments. I just tag them in for them.
Every time somebody says nuclear power can be very dangerous, like I get the picture they have in their head. So here's a different picture of a different kind of power that I want to paint for you guys. It causes debilitating disease.
Ouch.
Debilitating disease. Black lung, horrible things. Cave-ins still happen. Coal is a horrible form of energy. And hundreds of thousands of atrocities have happened just by mining it. So come on, no energy form, be it geothermal, solar that can still cause fires, is 100% safe. All energy is dangerous to some extent. So
and coal kills people. Okay, like
Kills
let's
people
back
every
up
day.
to the mining thing a bit. If you are a minority in America, coal should trigger you. And I say that like the Scottish people were considered a minority. Like it's pretty recent that we're just called white, by the way. Like it's really fun. Thank you for throwing us in with everyone else after like we spent 400 years bettering ourselves. I guess that's the compliment. But
conscription.
For us, coal is like a dirty word because of how many fucking people died mining it in the South. And those are predominantly Scottish and black. That's where that body count came from.
Yeah, look, energy is dirty. That's the reality. The good thing with nuclear is it really limits the amount of dirt that's coming out. Even in huge fallout situations, the overall picture is still far better than a huge coal atrocity. It just is.
Hey, and by the way, for all the listeners, you guys told me to get crazy on Drunk and Disorderly, so I'm eating some chicken and mashed potatoes while I'm drinking. If you guys see me eating, don't wonder what the hell's going on, but you told me to let loose.
Man, I told Elfie not to pick me up food because I'm like, I can't. We have too big of a guest coming on. I can't eat. So there's a story. Yeah. I'm gonna go take us down memory lane. Back when I used to do my old podcast with Nathan, although I think actually this was an episode I did with Mike. We had Michael Heiss on to talk about, because this was right when the Ron Paul at the National Convention thing was blowing up, and we were trying to get people on both sides of the issue to come on and talk about it. And this is before Asshole came on and screamed at Mike why I never talked to him or about him. You were mentioning him earlier. I actually just forgot his name, Erin.
You mean Daniel Hayes?
Yeah, that asshole. So,
Daniel's okay.
Oh, fuck him. You don't come onto my show and scream at my co-host, okay? That's not how this works. Anyway, so I have Mike interviewing Michael Heiss. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to mute because I have had a 12-hour workday, and I just got some runs. You guys go at it. I'm going to eat, and I'll jump in when I'm done. Now, I should have just like covered my camera, but apparently because I'm a fat guy and I eat really fast, that grossed some people out, especially some people in Lincoln. There's a reason there's like a divide in this state, and I feel like I'm it. You're either a friend of mine or you hate my guts, and those are the two factions in Nebraska.
We're gonna mend those fences. We're gonna mend them.
The divide in Nebraska is all because Zach chowed down on camera. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's what it's. Oh wow,
like I get that you're into yourself, but
I'm not saying that's what started it. I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's what started it. Because that was 2 or 3 people from Lincoln who are already starting to grind axes on me. We're like, look at how badly he's representing the state party. It's like, first off, this is a podcast that has not much to do with the state party, just because I have a role there. And second, why are you so jelly?
I mean, look, Justin's got a point. If you've got Michael Heiss on as a guest and you're taking either a call or commentary from Daniel Hayes. And
no, this was separate.
To go south.
We separate. We had Michael on and Mike interviewed him. And then a couple days later, we had Asshole on and Mike interviewed him. And it was completely separate because we wanted both sides, not to hear 2 people screaming at each other. I hate that. I hate confrontation.
Yeah, but look, what you got is 2 people screaming at each other on different nights. I mean, you should have anticipated that.
Corn versus soybeans. No, we're arguing about getting hemp in this state right now, Eric. So we actually, Scott.
We can talk corn versus soybeans, though, if you want. I mean, when you're talking about those types of crops.
No.
I
think you know more about it than the 2 Omaha people, because we don't give a fuck.
I think subsidy crops are always a shitty idea. That they deplete aquifers and they leave farmers and ranchers in a position where they're dependent on government, because the areas that the government tends to target and the farms that they want to offer these subsidies for subsidy crops, they're not in great areas to grow those crops, man. They're just not.
I mean, Nebraska is a great area to grow fucking anything that's not a fruit.
There's always stuff that grows better in different areas, and the government always wants to pay farmers to grow crops that don't produce well in their area. In that area, that's part of the subsidy racket.
You know what would produce really well here?
Hemp everywhere.
You know how many licenses they gave out when they passed that law? Because I actually found out. I checked.
How many?
10 people in Nebraska can grow hemp.
Cronyism.
The guy who wrote the bill is actually pissed, and we're getting him on in a couple weeks. Scott knows him. He's working that angle for us. This is us reaching out. I think he's a Republican, but he could be a Democrat. I don't know. Are unicamerals nonpartisan? Allegedly. Unless you step out of line with the governor, and then suddenly you have to change political parties because your future is ruined.
I mean,
totally not partisan though.
Look, while we're talking partisan stuff though, I know, Cliff, I know you personally and your organization take hits, right, all the time for not supporting, not doing more to support the LP and LP candidates. So let's talk about that. Let's just get it out of there. It's the elephant in the room, right? Let's eat the fucking elephant.
I don't think it's the elephant in the room. It's the porcupine in the room.
The porcupine in the room.
So yeah, we have a big program we run where there's a lot of college groups that work to recruit students. There's a few on the libertarian side. The idea is last year, 2018, we started to really funnel money and start to raise and try to build up our C4 side, which allows us to do political work. And so we launched a program called Operation Win at the Door. And the idea was, listen, if we can go out there and if we can have an impact by knocking on doors and getting people that believe in a libertarian philosophy elected, let's do it. Can we do it? And so we had a lot of conversations, a lot of discussion about who those people would be, what they'd be running for, what our strategy would be. And we build all these things. I mean, listen, this isn't something where, if there was already a plan or if there was already something scalable in place, we just tap into it and try to help. To be frank, there wasn't really a national plan to help get people elected that believe in libertarian ideals. So you could say the party, but what I'm getting at is, something we can plug in a grassroots network to where we can win. And so what we decided was, okay, let's knock doors. That's going to be the strategy we're going to use. And we had to pick, this was a strategic decision, to pick a level of office. Because look, you can do Senate races, you can do governor races, those statewide races, you can do presidential races, you can do congressional, you can do state legislative. You can do dog catchers, school board, or city council. The decision we made was, well, let's focus on state rep races at the state level because we think that by door knocking, we can actually make a difference. And I think that, one of the things I'm trying to figure out is where do we harness that energy and actually knock the doors? So the rules for endorsing are pretty simple. We were very clear from the beginning. We have no loyalty to party. All my Republican friends say I'm way too libertarian. All my libertarian friends say I'm way too Republican. I get it every single day. But I said, let's cut the bullshit. Whether you believe in the Rand Paul, Justin Amash, Thomas Massey type libertarian Republican, or you believe more in, the Jeff Hewitt model of winning, running under the LP and picking a race where you think you can actually win. I want to find candidates that are principled and viable regardless of party. So those are the two thresholds. That's all we care about. Whether they're principled, we have a 30-question survey to figure that out, and whether they're viable. And so those are the two things we looked at. In 2018, or since we've launched the program, I will be very blunt with everybody, and this is a question I'll ask any LP member. We have endorsed 4 LP candidates that were running at the state level. We endorsed Laura Ebke, we endorsed Caleb Dyer, we endorsed Brandon Finney, and we just endorsed Billy Hunt in Rhode Island, who ran in the special election. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds on why, but I will tell you, how do I word this? I asked certain individuals within the LP to give me the top 3 to 5 viable state legislative candidates in 2018. I'll challenge the LP again in 2020 to say, listen, get me a list. We do state races. Get me a list of 10 candidates, and let's actually vet them and see, can one of them win? Now, some people disagree with my model. They say, well, we don't have to win. There are certain things we're trying to do, whether it's ballot access. Listen, I'm all for going in on things if there's a strategy, there's a plan, we execute the plan, and then we review our results and say, were we successful? What can we do differently? And then move forward from there.
So then why did YAL not endorse Bethany Valdez in her race?
I would say Bethany Valdez, I've said this publicly before, Bethany Valdez was my biggest mistake in 2018. And I say I typically like to say we, I like to give credit to the activists when we win, but I will own this as my biggest mistake in 2018. I mean, she came within 100 votes.
Yeah, and only at 0 hour after a mystery box of ballots appeared out of fucking thin air.
Yeah, so we have our eye laser focused. She came out to our event in Memphis, and we're working with her to see if we can get her up to speed with a viable campaign for 2020.
But to be clear, you don't think that running as a libertarian prevents her from having a viable campaign, right? You think that clearly, as a libertarian, she's viable. There would be no need for her to say jump ship or run as a Republican and try and get the seat and win from the inside in that old strategy, right?
No, I think she clearly showed she's viable. My question would be the same question I'd ask everybody, and people disagree with me. I don't have loyalty to party. If she was in a district that was a D plus 40 district, this is what we tell our activists: run as a damn Democrat. Some people, like I said, some people will not agree with me on that, and that's fine. But my thing is this: if you're going to show up to the polls and 40% of people are going to pull the Democrat ballot, 40% are going to pull the Republican, and listen, every district's different. I'm not saying that this is every single district. It makes life difficult if you're trying to run in a separate party or as an independent. It makes life very difficult. So I think people a lot of times try to associate YAL and say, they're doing the Republicans' bidding. I'm trying to find people who are running on a libertarian platform. I'm trying to hold them accountable. They're not perfect. We've had mistakes. We've had to kick individuals out of our coalition for taking bad votes. And I'm happy to stand up to people. But it's a process we've put in place. We're trying to stick to it. And I would argue it's been one of the most successful libertarian programs in the last 30 to 40 years.
So when you say viable, you guys are trying to decide what candidate is viable or what isn't. What are you looking for specifically? We have lots of candidates and potential candidates that watch this. And maybe let's address that. What makes a candidate viable? what things can these candidates do and how do they address issues in their campaigns and in their staff and in the whole plan to make themselves more viable to YAL.
Yeah, well, look, I don't even want to say it's more viable to YAL. I mean, I always joke with people and I say, if you can show me a path to victory, that's different from what we've seen in the past. Because listen, we don't know if they're going to be viable. Look at Bethany Valdez. I mean, we can try to vet as much as we want. The basics you can look at when you're talking about state legislative races. Because listen, nobody's doing polling in these races.
Right.
We have vetted over 500 candidates that submitted their survey in 2018. We can't afford to do polling in all those districts. But fundraising is the number one. And once again, this is not YAL. This is not Cliff. These are indicators that we can look at, right? How much money are you going to have to get your message out? Second thing, how many doors have you knocked and do you plan on knocking to turn out voters and make personal connections with voters out there? And this is the most frustrating thing we get, okay? I'll get somebody that submitted a survey. They sound phenomenal. They're very principled. They present themselves very well. You think they connect with people. And I say, okay, 2 questions before we even dive in on anything. A, what's your campaign plan? And B, how much money have you raised? And they say, well, Cliff, we don't have a plan. We're just figuring it out. And 2, well, we haven't opened a bank account yet. Why does money matter?
Oh, I am so glad you said that. Like, what I harp on the most is you have to knock doors. I've had candidates say, why do I have to show up for that door knocking event? Don't we have volunteers? No, fuck you, dude. It's your race. You have to be there. You have to knock doors. You have to physically bleed. You have to do the work as a candidate. Absolutely, you have to be there. And I bitch about that and bitch about that and bitch about that. And then the campaign plan. The first 2 things I ask any campaign when campaigns reach out, and they do all the time, and they say, come work with us. Can you help us? We need some help. What's your win number and what's your campaign plan? Email me your campaign plan. What? Look, if you're a candidate and you need a campaign plan example, DM me and I will send you one. I will send you one you can build from. Email Cliff, email YAL. They will send you something or direct you to someplace you can build on. But take the time to do the work. Write the fucking campaign plan. Knock the damn doors. And
let me ask you guys one quick strategy thing that I think I'm always interested to hear from people that identify as hardcore LP. If I said to you in 2020, we could do 1,000 races across the country, and we would get no wins from state rep through president. But we'd have ballot access in some states. We'd grow the party in terms of registration. We'd raise, let's say, let me just throw out numbers here. Let's say we raised a total of $20 million. But we wouldn't get any wins. There would be no wins on the board, nobody to legislate, nobody to have a microphone from within a chamber, whether it's anything from state house up through the U.S. Senate or president. Would you prefer that? Or, and I'm not saying that has to be the case, but just bear with me, or would you rather pick 10 races for state house, spend $2 million on each of them, and every door we would have knocked on random races in Idaho where we can't win, or in California, and we bust people in and we pick 10 state legislative races around the country, and you actually get 10 people elected who can propose legislation, force roll call votes, and can do all these things that actually show, hey, libertarians know how to legislate. We have better ideas. And I'm open to you telling me that option A is the better way, but I feel like it's not even a conversation. Everybody I talk to, it's like, oh, option A, option A. But I don't understand why. I can never get to the bottom of why ballot access is
$1 million.
So I think neither of
we have no money. We want the money.
I think neither of those paths is the right path. Like, I get the logic behind both of them. I do. I really, really do. But again, I think the logic behind both of them comes from a short game outlook. And I think a short game outlook is the wrong outlook.
So what's the long game?
I think the long game is you try to win seats and secure ballot access at the same time, and you do it by not focusing on races as large as the races you suggested. In Oklahoma, you know how bad our ballot access was, Cliff. You watched it. You watched us get it and lose it year after year after year after year. We went 16 years without it. We got it back, and this time we decided to take a long game approach. We started lobbying for changes in legislation that would help us maintain it. We started using initiative referendum to push libertarian policy through. We got it to the voters in 11 times since 2016, and they've all been successful, which is amazing, right? You do it by changing culture and winning those small seats. And, you know, we got ballot access in 2016. Today we hold 3 seats. Now, granted, one school board, 2 are city councils. But when you talk about legislation that affects individuals on a daily basis, that is the legislation that is going to touch everybody, right? City council, school board. That's where you start. We have to build a bench. We don't have a bench.
You're singing my tune here. So why not focus in on those seats? Like why don't we take those 3 wins and figure out how to replicate that?
Look, our state auditor race was a 2-way race. You're going to love this. 2-way race, no Democrat in the race. And we put up a candidate who is a professor of economics and accounting, who's a licensed CPA. We pulled 41% of that vote. If we could have gotten help from an organization like YAL, we could have won that seat. But you guys weren't focused on races this last cycle that weren't state rep or higher.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is why not take the money from that race and try to win and build a bench of those city council folks or the school? Like, I'm all about, like, I actually think the Jeff Hewitt model of trying to find seats where we can win.
That's the key. Winnable seats. And when you talk to candidates, and I know you'll get this. I talk to candidates that say, help me win the seat. And I say, what's your win number? And they say, what's a win number?
Right.
I'm walking away.
Right.
Because we can't win that seat with you in that seat. Sometimes it's not just it's whether or not the seat is winnable. There are seats that are winnable everywhere. You know it and I know it. But it's the right candidate, a winnable candidate in a winnable seat. You got to have both. And what I think it takes as a candidate may be very different than what Cliff thinks or what Dre thinks. And I think a lot of that is going to be regional.
Yeah, but I think
where you live.
No, I see. I agree 100%. Look, our standard in each state's very different. You know, states like New Hampshire where people are winning and they've only raised $20, it's very different than states like, California, New York, where they have to just spend millions. That quote is what I was just going to reference. I'm glad you pulled that up. Yeah, the school board folks can turn into state delegates in 4 years. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to do right now. And obviously, we're a little bit of a higher level in terms of I'm focused on state rep. And listen, the reason we pick state legislative seats, it's more economical than anything. Sure. I can't get a donor in Oregon to chip in $25 to YAL for a school board race in Georgia.
Right.
What I can do is I can get a donor in Oregon to chip in $25 for a race in Georgia to back the only Republican, you guys should look into him, Matt Gertler, to back the only Republican who will stand up to the damn Republicans and their bullshit cronyism when it comes to passing a budget and raising taxes every single year. What I'm getting at is it's about how far people can stretch. Everybody's got a state house, a state assembly, or some sort of state body, whether they're delegates. Nebraska, you guys are a little weird. But everywhere else, it's something people can understand. And so we focused at that level. But yeah, that comment, Eric, is spot on. I mean, the whole idea here is once you get elected, you've now got volunteers. You've got a donor base that you can tap into. And most importantly, you now have a microphone and a voting record. So I think you're right. I don't want it just has to be at the state level. But I think we have to find races where we value winning. It can be within another plan. I'm fine with that. But we've got to have that as kind of like the North Star number is how many wins do we actually have? Because when we win, people have to listen to us. We're no longer throwing bombs from the sideline.
Right. Right. And we're building a bench. And, I think one of the other things is that we failed to try to find seats where we can get people appointed. I promise you guys, without even asking him, Cliff has had this experience. You get somebody who's brand new to the movement. They're on fire and they're passionate and they're excited. And you know what seat they want to run for? Governor, president, right? Like humble yourselves, motherfuckers.
Just a little bit.
I'm serious. It's like, seriously, do something that matters. Yeah, we run in the big show only because we have to. We can't exist if we don't. That's why we do. We need people winning these local seats. We've got 3 in Oklahoma. Anybody who was around before, I don't know, 2012, did you ever believe Oklahoma would have 3 elected libertarians? Oklahoma, of all places? Fuck no. We passed what the Washington Post called the most progressive medical marijuana bill in the country. And what they mean by that isn't progressive left-leaning. It's that there are no qualifying conditions. Whatever a doctor will write you a recommendation for, you qualify for it. We passed cold beer and wine sales in grocery stores and gas stations. We passed decriminalization. It's a misdemeanor. Anything up to an ounce of damn near anything is a misdemeanor in Oklahoma now. And the money that comes from those court cases goes to rehab centers. We did that. You can use those social issues, but you can't ignore the economic side of them if you want to win on them. So the people that were bashing Cliff about his tweet, look, yeah, if you're a social libertarian and you're here for social issues, understand that the way to gain ground on them is just to highlight the economic failures that they are. You have to do both. Both go hand in hand.
So, Cliff, I wanted to talk. I was reading your wiki page today, or YAL's wiki page. By the way, you should have your own. I was
yes.
People on there that you had as speakers to YAL events, and some of them, you should have your own wiki page. I'll just put it that way, okay? If they have their own, you should definitely have your own. But, okay, so you guys have overturned anti-free speech bullshit on 51 campuses. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your hard work. I have a question. I've heard free speech zones, but until today, I had never heard of a speech policy permit or a lunch break clause. What the hell are those things?
One more time for me.
Okay, so I've heard of these free speech zones that they have on campuses. I've never heard of a speech policy permit or a lunch break clause.
Oh, yeah. So good news is Wikipedia is a pain in my ass. One, we submitted an edit. We're up to 54 wins. And 2, they will never approve. It doesn't matter how many articles I write, how many TV hits I do. They will never approve me having a wiki. Similarly to how Facebook, I had created a page for Cliff Maloney. YAL's been up my ass to do it for maybe 6 months now. Sean Tima, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I have to say this publicly. So he said, we have to do this. We have to do this. So we created a page in Facebook. Literally it's been 3 months of them saying it's processing. So I'm not saying there's bias. I don't want to say that. I'm just saying it's pretty crazy.
So we're dealing with that.
We relate.
We're dealing with the wiki thing on, I work for Dan Berman's presidential campaign, and it's, you have to have articles written about you in major papers. And I would think that you have qualified for that at this point.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. You should
how many people write articles talking shit about you?
Yeah, it's too often. Too many people in this room. So anyway, what's happened is with free speech. Okay, can I take you guys back on free speech just like 2 years?
Sure.
So you have this whole epidemic where conservatives say, oh, campus is liberal. Okay. So they're not wrong. They're not wrong in terms of the classroom experience. Okay, a lot of professors, government is the answer to pretty much every single problem, period. But what's happened is over the last 6 years, the on-campus experience, there's two opportunities to impact hearts and minds on campus. The first one is in the classroom. The second one is on campus. So if you're tabling, if you're doing activism, if you're hosting a speaker, this is where people will say it's biased, but it's deeper than that. People have complained for a while, but nobody's really said, hey, what's the root of this? How are they able to shut down, let's say, conservative and libertarian speakers? How are they able to not recognize one of our student organizations and kind of delay it for a couple of years? The answer is they bake it into these policies, the student code of conduct. Now, it's not sexy, it's wonky, and it's a deep dive conversation. But this is how they create those free speech zones you talk about, areas where the campus gets to give you your right to free speech. By the way, I know there are libertarians watching. Let me be abundantly clear. I am referring to public taxpayer-funded universities. Private institutions have the right to choose. It's private property. They can choose what is said and who is on their property. I am specifically talking about this for public institutions that take taxpayer dollars that are supposed to uphold the First Amendment.
Quick question,
please.
What at this point are there private universities? Because
No,
everyone at least
really,
takes
really,
grants and shit.
That's what I was going to say.
But here's the best part. Even private institutions, the way you can hold them accountable is most of them will put in their mission statement or somewhere in their code of conduct that they believe in free speech and an open society of ideas. So we've had lawsuits in the past against some private institutions that are, they say they're private, but what we're really pushing them on is, listen, isn't this kind of hypocritical? You say this, then you did this. Either change your policy or don't, we're going to go public that this is not true.
Well, and I mean, too, until all students attending private universities are attending not using government money, isn't this a very different conversation? Like, if I can get accepted into Harvard, I can use FAFSA and student loans and government grants to go to school in Harvard. Doesn't that make them a contractor of the government at that point?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And so what we've done, Dre, is we have gone after these codes because instead of just complaining about it, we've realized, listen, if we can, and we work with FIRE, Foundation for Individual Rights in Ed, we work with ADF, some of these other groups that do pro bono free speech work, and we go out and we will purposefully do an event, host like a giant free speech ball event where our students are getting signups and getting people to exercise the right to free speech, knowing that we will trigger the campus. Now, when I say trigger, I don't mean that in any type of way that will.
You're going to trigger a chain reaction.
Right. And so then we have legal standing.
Yep.
And so the way we've gotten these 54 victories, and those are actual reform changes. It is not just, hey, our speaker got shut down and, hey, now they're letting the speaker come.
Yep.
We have sued schools. We've sent threatening letters. We've done petitions with students. And I mean, listen, we've taken down Berkeley. You talk about UMass where they tried to have this like hour-long, free speech lunch pass. Talk about some bullshit like you said. I mean, they had one area for 1 hour a day that was next to the cafeteria that they said, this is where you can practice free speech.
Oh my God, that's what that lunch break clause thing is?
1 hour from noon to 1. And it was a small area next to like the student union where everybody ate food. It's insane. So here's the thing. Do I think these college administrators are evil? I should probably not answer that publicly. What I think
I do. It's my show. I can say what I want.
Fuck them.
They're bureaucrats. Listen, when bureaucrats get authority, they crave it. They want it. That's what it means to have authority, to be an authoritarian. Right. So when certain campuses started to put these codes in that said, you can't speak here. Oh, if you want to have that speaker, if you want to do this, you have to get permission. They all got kind of high off this and they all started using it. What we're trying to do is set a trend, a snowball effect to push back on that. And I got to tell you, the coolest thing about the 54 wins is when you change one, like we've had some community college districts, we'll change one school, the whole district will have to take it on. UC Berkeley, they now, for the entire UC system, they can't arbitrarily deny a student group to be recognized and get access to funding just because they say like, oh, you're too similar to other groups. Bullshit. There's like 45 groups that you could call the Democrat Society. There's a few conservative, and there was one libertarian group, and they were trying to say we were too similar to them. I mean, it's just, you have to call them out of their bullshit, and the only way these schools get it is when we sue them. And so that's what we've gone to, but it's starting to work, and I think we're starting to see the snowball effect.
So look, I have this theory that we underutilize as libertarians. We underutilize government. And I know I'm going to fucking get hate mail from that, right? But look, here's the deal. We understand how evil government is, and the fastest way to end government is to completely fucking bankrupt it. Stop it, right? If we break it, it's broken. You got to break it beyond this despair.
On spending.
Look, here's what I'm saying. I don't think we have enough libertarians working as teachers and professors. There's one for you, Arvin.
Shout out to Scott Zimmerman, our partner in crime, our behind the scenes guy.
Right, and David Stewart and Robert Laura and hundreds of thousands of other teachers.
Fuck Robert Laura. I'm just kidding. I have no idea who that is. I'm just kidding.
Look, I get Arvin's whole tirade that teachers are welfare queens. Go be a fucking welfare queen. Affect hearts and minds in a very real way by touching these students and introducing them to libertarianism.
Whoa. Let's maybe rephrase that. Don't touch these students, please.
I mean, if you're in college, I'm going to say it's probably okay.
Touch their hearts and minds.
That's an interesting discussion, actually, because it starts to talk about power imbalances.
That is definitely, I would say, a power imbalance.
I think that people have a right to enter into relationships and situations that include power imbalance, if that's what they choose to do.
Look, we promise not to get too into this, but as people as the one person who is in a relationship where there is a power imbalance, I can say I entered into it willingly.
I don't enter into relationships where there isn't a power imbalance willingly. I'm just saying, like, fuck off with that.
So I do want to back up because Justin has been kind of railing here, and I want to give.
Of course he has. Hi, Justin.
Walls of text over here.
Yeah. So here we go. YAL's win at the door candidates in New Hampshire in 2018 that sucked majorly. Oh, God, he can't write half the time. Linda Camerota, sorry, whatever. She actively fought against the death penalty repeal, voted and campaigned against the legalization of marijuana while supporting Medicaid expansion. She also voted against independent redistricting commission and ending gerrymandering in New Hampshire. She voted against allowing trans people to change their gender on government documents. So a very specific case. Do you want to respond to that one specifically?
Yeah, I haven't heard any of these against Linda. I'm happy to look into it. I mean, one of the things that I will share with you, we had a gentleman in not New Hampshire, in Vermont. So we have not only the 39 people now that we've gotten elected, we had 38 wins in 2018. We just won a special in South Carolina. We won 2 specials this year. So 37 wins in 2018, 2 this year. So a lot of people ask me, like, what's it going to take to hold these people accountable? And I think Justin's bringing up some good points here. So I don't want to become one of those groups where people get in, you have a set of principles, and then they just don't, they don't stick to them. We want to actually be able to hold people accountable to what they said in their survey. So in Vermont, we had an individual who voted for a $20 million tax increase. It was a sin tax on a plastic bag ban. And here was the best part. So he did this early on. His name's Patrick Seymour. And what it allowed me to do was it allowed me to ping our legislators and say, because look, we have follow-up conversations with these people all the time when they go, if they're having trouble with a vote or if they're going south or if something happened and we want to follow up. So what we did was we looked into, his vote, and we called him and he said, I had to do this because of some X, Y, or Z bullshit excuse. And we said, well, there's no excuse there. We're trying to elect people that have a fundamental, different opinion on what the role of government is. And so I'm not looking to do the go along and get along, play the games. Now, listen, I hold people accountable to the stances they took in our survey. We've gotten some shit from people because we had a candidate in Texas that won. He's put up some stuff that's, makes it tougher for ballot access. I'm not happy about that, but I'm not going to spend YAL resources going after an issue that we don't ask people about when we are vetting them in the survey. We get them on the record on these issues. This gentleman in Vermont, after hearing what he said, we emailed all 75 of our legislators. So it's not just the 39 we have that we got elected. We've also found people that believe in a libertarian philosophy across the country. Remember, there's about 5,000 seats. We have our 39 plus additional members to bring us up to 75 that would, we could say are liberty-minded. And so we sent an email to these 75 people saying, look, this guy, Patrick Seymour, he voted for this, a very clear tax increase, plastic bag ban. That's not liberty. And so we kicked him out of our coalition. And you know what happened? I think you guys will appreciate this. It was a really cool thing. I sent 75 emails. I can't even tell you how many of those legislators replied and said, thank God. Because so many of these groups don't hold people accountable. And when they take egregious votes, we've got to hold them accountable. And so what it did was it kind of set the tone early on. And I'm glad Justin sent some of these items. I want to follow up and figure out, exactly what those votes were. But I have staff members who day to day are tracking these votes, helping to push people in the right direction, because we need to make sure these people are our champions.
So, maybe you don't know, I am an unabashed partisan. I'm an unabashed libertarian partisan.
Same.
Anybody who knows me knows that. I'm not going to vote. Look, literally to the point that if there wasn't a libertarian in a race and I thought a Republican was the best person for the job or a Democrat was the best person for the job, I'm unlikely to vote for either of them. I will likely choose to abstain. That's me. That doesn't mean I think anybody else should necessarily do that or not do that. But I'm going to play devil's advocate because I have worked with lots of candidates. And sometimes somebody comes in hot and they look great on paper, and I'm working on that campaign for about a month or two, and I go, oh, fuck this shit. This dude's batshit crazy, right? That happens. That happens to everybody. Cliff, what I would like to know from you is, let's say we have other cases like this one Justin's bringing up, where people are seeing these inconsistencies in these issues. How would you like for them to alert you to that? What's the best method for us to go, hey, wait a minute, YAL, you guys endorse this dude who's now calling for eugenics or whatever?
Yeah. So, listen, we have a way to recommend candidates. But at the end of the day, I'm also looking for people to patrol kind of what they're currently doing. So I'm very open to people submitting via email. You can get a hold of us at contact@yaliberty.org. Send in emails. Let us know. Yeah, contact@yaliberty.org. And we're happy to dive in on some of this because voting records need to line up with the survey that they took when they filled out for YAL. Now, the one thing I will say real quickly is every state, I love that you had said earlier, it's a case-by-case basis on states. It is. Some states, let's talk marijuana. Some states, marijuana is illegal. And so somebody will put down that they support medical. Other states, marijuana is fully legal. And so if they put down they only support medical, that's going backwards.
Right.
So I always tell people, Mississippi right now, we've got a lot of our folks who are trying to lead a medical marijuana push because it's illegal in Mississippi. And I've said to people, that's great. Some people say, oh, well, they're only pushing medical. It's listen, I'm not here to defend incremental change versus, legalizing heroin.
Right.
But I am here to tell you, on our survey, we're always making sure state by state that people are going in the right direction. And this is not in reference to New Hampshire, but I'm just saying overall, I think people should understand that it depends on where the state currently is and moving it towards liberty.
Right. It's got to be. I think part of the thing too is libertarians as a whole, we get hit about our unwillingness to compromise. And I'm sorry, that's absolutely not true. Even as a radical libertarian, I'm willing to compromise, but compromise doesn't mean that we give you what you want and we get nothing in return. Right. That's not what it fucking means.
I got two comments here. One's from Kyle on one of the personal streams, Kyle Varner. To be honest, I'm less worried about people who are less ideologically pure than people who are batshit crazy. Mm-hmm. That is the most fair of points.
Agreed.
So Michael Burns is pointing out a lot of the things on the survey, a lot of things are not on the survey. It mostly excludes social issues outside of marijuana and guns.
All right, hold on. It sounds like Michael didn't see the beginning of the show. What the hell is a social issue? Please clarify.
Look, Cliff, seriously, Michael's a great policy guy.
I
person for you to reach out to. You might be able to benefit from some of his insight.
Yeah, Michael, I would love to know. Seriously though, I'd love to answer question or issue by issue which social issues people think we should have on the survey.
Email Cliff, Michael.
So I had a question on my page earlier. Somebody wanted to know if your survey that you give to candidates is available online somewhere so that people can see what questions you ask.
Yeah. So if you go to yaliberty.org/door, yaliberty.org/door, DOOR, you can do a few things. One, you can recommend a candidate. So for every libertarian out there, If you have somebody in your district running DRR, whatever it is, you can recommend them. And we will vet them, and we will get them a survey. All it takes to recommend is we literally want their name, the district they're in, and some contact information so we can get a hold of them. You can also sign up. You want to door knock. People out there want to get involved. They want to actually pound the pavement, stop doing the bullshit internet arguments. Please join us. We would love to have libertarians that actually want to be effective. And of course, if other people want to, find $1 million donors, please send them our way. None of this is free. And that's the other thing that I really appreciated that you said that earlier. Listen, these candidates need to raise money, because for us to do this, what do people think? I spend 300 days a year on the road for my health. I see my wife 1 out of every 10 days. She's probably going to leave me. I believe in the cause, and I think that we've got to fundraise. And I think it's time for libertarians to step up and say, listen, if we really believe in these ideas, I don't like that we have to fundraise, but at the end of the day, we got to raise the money to actually print the literature, to book the housing.
I ran in 2016, and in 2016, while I was running, I had an 18-state region for the Johnson YAL campaign, and my grandmother was dying of Parkinson's. So I know that I was very split, right? I was kind of all over the place. I wasn't dedicated solely to my campaign, and I was still able to raise enough that we pulled 5.7% in a three-way race in a red district as an outright bisexual radical libertarian. So I realize that when we say raise money, people get freaked out. But if I can do it, man, anybody can fucking do it. I am at the lower end of every political bar, right? If I can do this shit, you guys can all do this shit. It's not that hard. And it starts by doing the thing that libertarian candidates frustrate the fuck out of me. Like, you want to ask deep pocket donors for money, but you won't ask Uncle George.
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
So the campaign that I worked on a couple of years ago was for school board. The launch event was the candidate and his family raising a couple $1,000s for a school board race. Now, he lost because that race actually had a bunch of people who were like former state senate, former city council and stuff, who wanted to be on the school board for some god awful.
You had the right candidate in the wrong race, man.
It was absolutely the wrong race, but it was great for him because he's like younger than me, so he's got a lot of
back.
Yeah, hopefully.
I hope so.
But I have two things I want to point out because I'm looking at your site here. One, Patrick Seymour looks like he's 12. How did you find that guy?
You got to remember, candidates come to Cliff. Cliff doesn't go trolling for candidates.
I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. He just.
I'm just saying,
you have all these
I've been
dudes
there
with like gray hair and like full on beards and shit on this list, and then there's Patrick Seymour who's like 12. So the next question. Most of these people are, I would say like 75% of them are from that northeast corner. Was that a strategy on purpose, or did everyone else just not make it? Is there something about that corner?
Listen, I think 2018, we had a pilot year. We were trying to figure out where should we focus. But really, if somebody came to us, I hate to say this. This is kind of a sad thing to say for libertarians, but there's so few viable races.
Dude, call me because you guys are focusing in the wrong place. It's the same thing I said in the Johnson YAL campaign. It's the same thing I've been saying forever. Everybody needs to focus on the fucking breadbasket. Look, in Miami, in Detroit, in Chicago, in New York, at best, a libertarian is page 9 news. In Nebraska, you're the front page. You've got to focus on the area of the country that is getting hit hardest by these terrible economic progress.
YALiberty.org/store. Recommend. We should talk. Look, let's do a follow-up.
Call me.
I would love to talk.
I've got candidates coming, like amazing candidates, and yes, some of them are in the Northeast. Dwayne Whitmer, I see you. They are. But part of it is about how we vet these candidates and where we're looking for the candidates, and you've got to get a stronghold. Like, I get the idea behind New Hampshire. I love my friends in New Hampshire. Before you all send me hate mail, I love you. Just know I love you. But you were the last place in the fucking country that the Free State Project should have happened. Alaska, motherfuckers, we can take over.
Oh, dude.
If you move 200 libertarians into a couple of counties in Alaska, you own the county government.
Oh,
right, but it is Alaska. But I mean, you can say the same thing about Nebraska and Oklahoma. Like,
no, dude, you can't. It's Alaska and then like Loving County, Texas, and we all saw what happened there, right? The Loving experiment did not go well, and it didn't go well because people had great intentions and no foresight.
Well, in Nebraska, you would have to come in with some kind of agricultural business plan. But it can be done. Anyway, so we are at 70 minutes. This file is going to kick my computer's ass. So
Cliff, are you cool with sticking around for the after party?
Dark.
I will hang out.
Awesome. And Ethan Bishop Henchman, Cliff, did say hi. He wanted kind of a shout out. I love him too. So he said,
at one point, I almost lived in his living room. That's for another day, though.
Ethan is amazing. Joe's amazing. So, Ethan, I love you.
All right. So here's the deal. Because we have a guest that has great opinions and a bigger following, I am going to end this stream, and we're going to come back on this page. I'm not going to throw us into the subscriber only for this one because our guest is too big. Our guest is too big for that group.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been doubting. I wouldn't use big as the word, but I'll take it.
You look great, Cliff.
Yes, you do. You're an incredible shrinking man this year.
All right, so we will see you guys. We're gonna take 5. I pray to God my food's here. I am so fucking hungry.
Dude,
we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys in like 5 minutes. Bye, everyone.